Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Trading the Markets. I'm Bijan Maleki, and I'm, of course, joined by Kris Bullock, our RV crypto contributor. Guys, before we get into it, make sure you check out the latest MIT update that just dropped today. Julian shares his global macro, where's global macro indicators are pointing, and how you should adjust your portfolio allocations accordingly. Definitely a must watch. So check that out. Just dropped today. Let's also take a quick look at Kris's most recent RV crypto portfolio update. It's up over 30% since inception. So Kris, not a bad return so far. And I'm sure our RV crypto members are loving it. And also a quick reminder, we discuss this stuff all day, every day in our Discord and on our platform. So whether you want to stress test your ideas, get insights on new trades, you need to join us in RV Crypto. You'll have access to Kris's portfolio as well. I mean, it's really just a great resource to hang out and learn and make money, right? People often post charts and ask about entries and exit levels and just so many other things. So definitely recommend you guys join and kind of just discuss this stuff, learn about it, and see where your portfolio can head at the end of this cycle. But without any further ado, Kris, let's get into it. What are you thinking about this week?
So yeah, well, I wanted to start with the crypto dashboard from the RV website, which I tend to, it's like become a habit now, but it's like become this amazing resource that I continue to reference on a very regular basis. And so one thing I'm going to start out with at the very top is the top 200 market cap weight versus top 200 equal weight, because we know the top 200 equal weight signifies when meme coins, or I'm not sorry, meme coins, but altcoins in general are showing relative strength against the likes of Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana and things like that. And it's worth pointing out that on a 30-day rolling basis, the top 200 equal weight still does have the edge a little bit, but it has kind of started to lag in more recent days and 7 days and on the daily time frames. So, and I think we're seeing Bitcoin kind of take the lead over the last week. But it is important to show here that, there is gains to be had in the meme coin sector. And we're seeing that on this 30-day rolling basis. So I think it's important to kind of dig in and look and see what's going on. And with that, I'm going to do just that. As I was looking through here earlier, there were a handful that popped out to me that I wanted to highlight. And the first one being so first I looked here and sort of saw what's doing the best on a rolling 30-day basis. And firstly, smart contract platforms jumped out at me because lately those have been a little bit lagging outside of maybe like SWE and a few others here and there. But I drilled into smart contract platform, looked at the layer ones, and one of the ones that jumped out was Hyperliquid. And so we've talked about Hyperliquid a little bit on our weekly show, and it's been doing well. But suddenly, just in the last 30 days, and really, on a yearly basis, it's been doing well since it launched. But it's really holding up, and it's really kind of coming on strong, over the last month, 7 day, 1 day. And so we'll get into the chart here in a minute. But I just wanted to point that out. The next one I wanted to holler is, let's see, virtuals. So I was looking under infrastructure. And AI really stood out to me too. On a 30-day basis, the entire AI sector is up 89% and kind of leading the charge. And so if you drill further into this, we can see that virtual has really come on strong as of late too. And it was actually in my model portfolio for a long time. I held it kind of all the way down and then sold it near the bottom, which I regretted because in the back of my mind, I knew that it was strong and my thesis never really changed for it. I always knew that it kind of had more going for it than a lot of these other AI platforms, but the price action just eventually got to me and it had lost, 90+%. And I was like, well, I know this is strong, but I just can't justify continuing to hold this when there's other things that were doing better. So reluctantly, I got rid of virtuals. And of course, as soon as I did that, it went on this mega run and, is up 180% right now. So I'm going to touch on that chart in a second too. And then lastly, getting into the digital currency subsector, meme coins have continued to show a lot of strength. But there's been a bit of a surprise lately in that PopCat has really surged. Granted, it's not doing well on a longer term yearly basis. It's still down 23% compared to, say, the likes of Fartcoin or SPX. But On a rolling 30-day basis, it's up, 3x. And so not too bad. So I want to touch on that chart too. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight the cryptocurrency dashboard because it's an amazing resource that we continue to use here at Real Vision. Thanks to Jamie Coots for producing this. So yeah, hollered that out. Now, if we want to flip over to the actual charts,
before you get into
Yes.
the charts, Kris, reminder to everyone, if you have any questions about any specific charts, just throw them in the chat and we'll try and answer them live on air. And for the Pro Crypto dashboard, you need to be a Pro Crypto or All Access member to access, but I promise you it is absolutely worth it. I mean, look how much Kris has been using it to help him with the trades. Yeah. So yeah, you'll definitely want to check that out.
I want to speak to that for a second. I know a lot of people, they might go to the Real Vision site and look at it and maybe see the price, especially if you're new to crypto. If you're brand new to the space and you see the price and you're just like, whoa, that's, but I can't stress enough how much it more than pays for itself. Don't think of it as an expense. Don't think of it as a cost. Think of it as an investment in your future and your knowledge. And again, you will more than make that money back. I mean, tenfold. Like it is amazing the insight you get both in actionable items, just in personal growth, in education, learning, filling all your knowledge gaps in terms of macro and how everything is all tied together. The community is far and away the best community I've ever engaged with in the crypto space. I've been a member of others in the past, and you just go on there, you go in these Discords and these Telegrams, and it's just nonstop like memes and shit posting, and there's no actual like real engagement. It's just like nonsense. The signal to noise ratio is terrible. But you go, think about it. If you have a little bit higher cost of entry, it really filters out a lot of that noise. And you go into a place like the Real Vision Discord, whether it's the RV Crypto, whether it's Pro Crypto, it doesn't matter. You go in there and it's just super high quality, amazing engagement. Everybody is very polite. Everybody's very respectful. Everybody is very helpful. It's just like, I mean, again, I've never experienced another community like it. And I just can't tell you how amazing it is. I mean, I've renewed every year. It's come up like happily and like take my money because again, I get a return on that investment. Like you wouldn't believe. It's just like, it's not, I don't even look at it as an expense anymore. I'm just like, this is what I need to continue to grow my portfolio and to reach the financial goals that I have. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because for me, it's just been an amazing, amazing resource. So let's get back to the charts here. Talking about Hyperliquid first. That was the first one I touched on. I use this indicator called Trading Alpha. It is a paid indicator. And I mean, of course I use other indicators too, but I really like this one. And I decided there's this element of it called the track line here. And I decided to make it a little bit less sensitive because it was a little bit too noisy. And so now I'm only really paying attention to charts that are showing a green track line right now, in addition to having green candles and green dots and stuff. But Hyperliquid stood out to me as one that did. So when I looked at Hyperliquid on the crypto dashboard and saw that it was doing well, and then came over and saw this indicator completely confirmed what I was seeing on that dashboard. And so I was really pleased to see that. And what we're seeing here is, again, Hyperliquid looks very strong. It sort of ticks all the boxes. It's got green candles. So the algo is green. The trend is green. The green dots kind of signal strength. And of course, the green track line signals strength too. So Hyperliquid is looking very good. It's sort of right at a resistance level, and it's showing just a ton of strength right now. So I think more upside to come with this asset, going forward. And I think that it's going to get back to its all-time highs pretty easily, really. And then if we switch over to virtuals, kind of the same thing. Now, virtuals has had a pretty strong run, and it's a bit in a corrective phase at the moment, but nevertheless, it also ticks the boxes in that it has a bit of a green track line here. It did kind of come up to a resistance level and did get rejected, but a lot of charts have done that, I feel like, over the last week or two. And, all of the ones that kind of really ran strong out of the lows have started to take a bit of a breather. But to me, this doesn't mean anything in terms of like a rollover. We're not seeing any signs of momentum slowing. Rather, we're just seeing signs of sort of a typical ebb and flow of these crypto assets. And so this is just more of like, it needs to kind of rest, correct, mean revert a little. And then I think it'll be back for another leg up, as soon as the rest of the market reverses. And then kind of flipping over to PopCat, the one I touched on. Popcat also, as we can see, looks very strong. Really solid track line, much less of a pronounced rollover. In fact, if anything, it's setting highs. Like it kind of had a resistance level here, and we can see that it's poked above it just today. So Popcat is actually showing a bit more relative strength than either of these other two that we just looked at. And honestly, I think it's got the momentum right now. Like, I think I never really thought memes died. I was never in that camp that thought, oh, memes are over. Kind of, we've touched on this. Where is it? If I can find it. Nope, too many charts here. Okay, the meme coin gains chart that we've touched on a couple of weeks ago. This is just sort of an aggregate of the top memes, and we can see that they've rolled over a little bit, sort of as an aggregate. So seeing Popcat showing strength and not really rolling over is showing that it's got greater relative strength compared to the rest of the meme sector. But my larger point here is that memes haven't gone anywhere. Memes are not dead. Memes are not even close to dead. And they never really die. They just kind of go in waves. They just, they'll run up, they'll cycle back down, they'll run back up. And even going back to 2020, 2021, they've never really died. They've just kind of always sort of gone in waves. Even in bear markets, they'll have little mini rallies here from time to time. So the notion that meme coins can die, I think, is a very false notion to begin with. And I think that it's important to consider them and have exposure to them even on some levels. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's where we're
absolutely.
at.
Well said. I have a few questions that we'll circle
Yeah.
back to on that, but I do want to mention, if you want more insights on meme coins, I mean, you could take it from the meme coin thesis guy himself, Murad, right? We had a great interview a while back with OSF and Murad on our rekt vision on Friday, or on Fridays, where OSF had a great talk with Murad, just going through his thesis, going back and forth with some questions, and kind of testing his thesis as well. So definitely recommend you guys check that one out. And then also the other half of rekt vision, Mando, actually was kind enough to put on a Real Vision Crypto Academy session for us on how to trade altcoins and meme coins. So if you remember OSF and Mando, legendary Bored Ape Yacht Club traders, and then now they go through, or Mando goes through, how to trade meme coins. So definitely check those out as well. Kris, I want to talk to you about Popcat really quickly. Because that was very popular not too long ago, right? When, kind of that first iteration of memes in this cycle is like with, right? Popcat had, with the animal coins, right? With that being said, right, being that Popcat has that history of success, would you, right now at these levels, and you're seeing kind of that positive price action, is this something you would consider entering right now, or are you waiting for more proof to enter that trade?
Yes, I would. And just primarily for the reason you just spoke of, because of its longevity, because it's shown, like, let me zoom this out on the weekly time frame, actually. Because it's had such a long history, I mean, relative, for memes anyway, but going back to, what is this, February of 2024. So early 2024, we had the big breakout kind of coming into the end of 2024, it rode this all the way up. And look at, just massive, massive uptrend. It finally peaked at the end of 2024 and like most memes did, and has rode everything back down. But the fact that it never really, like a lot of memes we saw, rode it all the way back down to their very beginning. And so the fact that this sort of generally held this sideways structure, it's like, yeah, it kind of tested the lows a little bit, but it generally held the structure after its initial gain, tells me that this was, the process of people taking some profits, but the diamond handers never really went away. They're like, we believe in this project for the long term. We're not going away. And sort of this sort of process you see where it endures a big correction and comes back around is exactly what you want to see. It's exactly what Murad talks about, just in a general sense of you need to see memes prove themselves over a long period of time. And I think Popcat is one of those that is showing us that it has the potential to do that. And so the fact that it has, strongly reversed its downtrend, is tracking with the rest of the larger crypto market as a whole, and is showing greater relative strength right now than most crypto assets. Again, not just memes, but just crypto assets in general. It's outpacing many of them. is I think a testament to the fact that it's sort of got longevity and it's not really going to go away. Now, is it going to be the best performer overall? I don't know. I mean, there's probably a small handful of memes that are in that conversation. Popcat is probably one of them. I would put, of course, Fartcoin, SPX, GigaChad also in that conversation too, maybe a couple others. But I think the market cap is another important thing to factor in. And Popcat, if I'm not mistaken, is around 400 or 500 million, which is I think a pretty key level. I think if a meme coin can hold that market cap level and not, again, give it all back, not just, it's showing that the holder base isn't fickle and doesn't want to just sort of capitalize on those quick massive gains and get back out and move on to the next thing. So the fact that it's able to hold it for this long of a period of time and show some resiliency out of the lows, to me, is a really strong signal. So yes, I would be a buyer here, I think.
Awesome. Sticking on the meme coin theme, Stuart has a question for us about Fart. He wants you to comment on the Fart chart. The last day was a bit concerning.
Yeah, I mean, it got a little bit overextended, but if we look here, it's generally tracking really well. Unlike most crypto assets, this one has had a green track line for, going on a few weeks now. So it has shown the greatest strength kind of coming out of the lows. I mean, above and beyond Popcat and pretty much everything else. So it outpaced everything. And this is reflected in this long green track line that we have here. So it was kind of due a little bit of a breather. I think if we go over and look at it on this chart too, we can see that this bull market support band here, which is, I don't know if you can see it, but it's this little gray shadowed area. So this represents like the 20-week moving average, basically. And anything that's well above that right now in this stage of the cycle is showing insane relative strength, because I mean, Bitcoin is barely even above it's, it's sort of right on the line. So kind of if you come back to Fartcoin, it's way above it. So basically it got a little bit overextended, a little bit over its skis. It's having to take a little bit of a breather. It did mean revert back to its 20-day moving average, and now it's sort of sunk below. But to me, I don't think that that's too much of a worry just because of how well it has done. I mean, honestly, it could come back down to this sort of 70-cent level or 70-cent level and still be considered in a strong uptrend. So I think give it a little bit, it deserves a bit of benefit of the doubt, I think, because of its strength that it's shown over the, really since, what is it? The low is back on March 10th. Since March 10th, it's blown everything out of the water. So give it a little bit of breathing room. Nothing is really structurally broken here. Like if you look at this uptrend, you can draw a line here from the bottom, kind of just along here. It hasn't even really come back down and touched that yet. So it's got a little bit of room to the downside, just both on this diagonal trend on its 20-week moving average. So I wouldn't worry about Fartcoin yet. I think, like I said, it went up more, so it's going to come down a little bit more. But the uptrend is still very much intact on the weekly time frame. So I think it's fine.
Well said. Well, real quickly, Joe on Twitter wants to know can you remind us what indicators you're using right now? It looks like a suite of some sorts.
So yeah,
I know the first one was a paid indicator.
This one is tradingalpha.io is the company that produces this indicator. Highly recommended. I've paid for a handful of indicator suites over the years. Never renewed any of them. This is the only one that I'm keeping this one. Another one that absolutely pays for itself. If you do any kind of tactical trading, not even day trading, you don't have to do day trading, but even just like seasonal rotations and things like that, this indicator will absolutely pay for itself in no time. And it's another one of those where I don't look at it as an expense, but rather just an investment in my sort of overall investment strategy. And then going back to this one, this is just really bread and butter standard indicators. We've got Bollinger Bands. We've got a 10-day moving average, a 20-day moving average, or rather 10 and 20 bar. It adjusts with whatever time frame you're on. And then this bull market support band is another one that I commonly use. But really, that's kind of it. And all of those are free. They're right in TradingView, and you can pull them up. And that's been my go-to most of the time for just getting quick insight at a quick glance as to if it's in a healthy uptrend or not. So
and then real quickly, my favorite one. Can you just show Joe the MCG as well? So Joe knows what that one looks like.
That one, So the MCG market cap gains, I think if you just search for market cap gains. And so I have this overlaid on the Bitcoin chart. Normally when you first load it, it's going to pop up in like an oscillator pane down at the bottom. And you can actually move it up and overlay it on top of the chart. Basically, you just right click on it and say move to existing pane above, and that'll overlay it right directly on your Bitcoin chart or whatever you want to look at. But so I like it like this because it gives a little more insight to have it overlay directly over the top of Bitcoin and see sort of the kind of the interplay between the two. But it doesn't load by default like that. So, but yeah, just search for Memecoin gains. Also, it's a community made indicator. It's not built in. I mean, well, it is built in, but it's not sort of part of TradingView, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for the question, Joe. We have quite a few questions to dive into actually, but before we move on and head into SWI, we got a few questions about SWI. Shafiq wants to know, because you were talking about, using Murad's thesis about, the history of a meme coin and how that's a good, not necessarily indicator, but that's, history in the meme coin is important, right? So with that being said, Shafiq wants to know what your thoughts are on WIF, and if that is something that is similar in idea to PopCat.
Well, let's take a look at WIF here. It's funny, I haven't actually. It's been a minute since I've looked at WIF, so yeah. It'll be news to me here too. So what do we got for WIF? We know it obviously has the longevity, but well, it's funny, I accidentally switched to the monthly candle here instead of the weekly, but this kind of tells a story all on its own. So we can see a pretty significant breakdown. This is an example of maybe what we didn't want to see and sort of what PopCat did not do. Whereas PopCat sort of held its larger sideways structure once it peaked, WIF actually lost its. And so I'm going to kind of zoom in a little bit more onto the weekly time frame here. And let me get rid of these Bollinger Bands for a second. So yeah, I mean, again, this line here at $1.38 I had identified as sort of the key support level because it had come back down here, set this low, and then had rebounded. And so I told myself, if it comes back and loses this low that it had set, that kind of meant that the community had been shaken. I guess you could say the faith in the asset had been shaken. And so, yes, it did bounce on the lows with a lot of assets, but it hasn't really shown the strength we want to see. It hasn't. So this is the bull market support band here. It hasn't really recaptured that like a lot of assets where, we just looked at PopCat, we just looked at Fartcoin. They were way above their bull market support band, and the band itself was actually slightly starting to point to the upside. Whereas we can see with WIF, it's not at all. I mean, it's really hasn't even sort of mean reverted on the weekly back to its 20-week moving average. So this is not a good sign. Yeah, you could argue it did sort of find support at this bigger weekly cluster that it had established way back at the beginning of 2024. But it shouldn't have ever even come down this far in the first place. Like the strongest memes that we saw that held up over the course of the last year did not lose their sideways structure. Like your SPXs and your PopCat, they didn't lose this sideways structure. They were able to maintain it and hold it. And to me, that was the sign that the holder base was diamond handed and had that core belief. And I feel like WIF just kind of lost it and hasn't been able to really fully recover it yet. So we're not seeing that same holder belief in WIF that we are in some other memes right now.
So the hat is currently off. Comment if you are holding WIF, or if you're not holding WIF, if you think the hat will ever come back on. Curious to hear everyone's thoughts. So we have quite a few questions about SWI. So first of all, Ruth wants you to, can you dive into the SUI chart a bit today? If it behaves like Sol did during the last bull, or if it behaves like Sol did during the last bull run, what sort of returns do you think it can produce? Sol's performance last bull run, 2020 to 2021, it went from 50 cents to $259, or a 52,000% ROI. I would be happy with half of that.
Well, it's funny. I'm very reluctant to call out price targets because again, we don't know. And obviously the crypto market was very different last cycle than it was this cycle. There's different dynamics in play. There's money coming in from different areas. We've got the ETFs now. I think that said, I do think that SWI will outperform Solana this cycle. Now, is it going to have the same gains that Solana had last cycle? I mean, that's anybody's guess. I feel like the altcoin sector last cycle, we have to remember it was very different in that we had the massive influx of just free money coming in, the massive stimulus money from COVID. And that drove, I think, a lot of hype, a lot of speculative hype, a lot of froth in all of the alt cycle. We didn't have institutional money coming into Bitcoin in the same way. So a lot of that money was sort of trapped in the crypto ecosystem. And I think that lent itself well to a lot of alts just kind of blowing up. This time around, I think it's going to be a lot more selective. I do think we will have, a quote unquote alt season, but I don't think it's going to be as broad based. I don't think it's just going to be this sort of rising tide lift all boats, which I've touched on a number of times. I think it will be a little bit more. You have to be more picky and choosy about which ones are going to excel. I do think SWI is in that camp, in that it will be one of them that does well. But it's already pretty. I want to say I need to look. It's give or take about a $10 billion market cap, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it's in the top 11. It's already in the top 11. And so it's already a ways up there. So it's going to take a pretty big influx of money for it to get, this massive, for it to equate to the gains that Solana experienced last cycle. And I don't know if that's going to happen. But that said, I could easily see it doing, let me just say this. I think it's mathematically plausible, rather, for a 5 to 10x to occur from here. Now, whether, what actually happens, it remains to be seen. But it's sort of, again, mathematically plausible. It's within reason for enough money to come in to boost the price that much. I don't think we're going to see this, tens of thousands of percent, gain like we saw with Solana last time around. But it is a good, I think, equivalent to compare it to Solana, in terms of its potential, like Solana had last time around. I think SWI is kind of the darling of, the new hot layer one this cycle, like Solana was last cycle, compared to a lot of the other new layer ones that have come out this cycle. They're definitely not showing nearly as much favor as SWI has. And just looking at the chart here, it got up to, it topped out around a little over $5. I mean, I think $10 is probably something that's in the cards. Without making a prediction, I'm just saying, again, it's reasonable to think that something like that could be achieved. So, but don't operate on price targets. I always tell people that don't set a price target and go, okay, well, I'm not going to take profits until it hits $10 or $20 or whatever. Never do that. You'll end up, what if it never hits that? Then you'll end up holding the bag all the way back down again. So, take profits along the way. But I do think that SWI has really, really strong potential to continue to grow from here. I will say that. I do think it's a very solid bet, a safer crypto investment, as it were.
Very well said. So let's take this last question, sticking on the SWI ecosystem. I'm going to actually combine these questions from Sigma and Lloyd here. So due to the integration of SWI's ecosystem into the Phantom wallet, is it reasonable to expect SWI memes to demonstrate unprecedented strength moving forward? And with that in mind, do you prefer deep or LOFI as a SWI beta play?
Well, I think if memes take off on SWI, I don't know that it'll be because of Phantom integration necessarily. I think it's the reason memes took off on Solana wasn't necessarily because of Phantom integration. It was just because they were easy to create on Solana, and it was easy to transact on Solana, whether you were using Phantom or Solflare or even Coinbase or whatever. Like there's all kinds of ways to transact on Solana, and while Phantom is important, I think the bigger thing was just how easy it was for the developers to actually create memes on Solana, and then I think Jupiter also played a role in that too. And so the whole sort of user experience, the UX of transacting on Solana and programming on Solana, that sort of perfect storm is what led to the meme craze on the Solana ecosystem. So
and how cheap it was too for
how cheap it was
for retail to buy as well.
Right. So, obviously we know it's cheap to transact on Sui and it's cheap to create these things on Sui, but it is a different programming language. So we don't, I don't know off the top of my head, but I have to imagine that the developer base on Sui is smaller than it is on Solana, just by virtue of the fact that Solana's been around for a whole extra cycle, So now I know the programming language on Sui is, easy to pick up, and it's not like people can't do it, but you need all of those things to sort of coalesce. You need a large developer base that is interested in creating these memes on Sui, and then you need people to actually have their funds set up and transact on Sui. And having it just be on Phantom Wallet doesn't mean you still don't have to like bridge your funds over to it. So there's a few more things there's a few more pieces of the puzzle I think that need to come into place for a meme mania to take off on Sui, but it absolutely can happen for sure. It's got the sort of foundational building blocks for something like that to happen, but we're not quite there yet. So, and then to kind of come back around to answer your question, do I think LOFI versus what was the other meme, Bijan?
Deep. Oh, not a meme, but Deep.
Deep. Well,
as your preferred beta on Sui.
Right now, gut, I'd have to pick Deep, which isn't a meme, obviously, but Deep just has the speculative hype. Yes, it's a tech alt. Yes, it has fundamentals that are being considered in that equation, but it just has the hype. I mean, if you look at the chart here on Deep, it's just, big run up out of the lows compared to a lot of stuff. And it's been around a lot longer than LOFI has. LOFI has got some buzz right now, but it needs to still prove itself. I mean, like Deep has been around a lot longer. It's sort of gone through a little bit of a hype cycle already, came back down, lost its initial sideways structure, but never went back and sort of retraced everything back down to the bottom. It tested it, but it held its lower structure here, and then has come roaring right back into this upper structure again. And right now it's testing its 20-day moving average, but it's sort of had a run up like Fartcoin did. And so these charts look very similar, but right now this is fine to me. We can see it's well above its bull market support band, and the band itself is pointed to the upside, which very few assets can claim right now. So Deep looks, Deep looks amazing by all accounts. I can't really say a bad thing about it. So I think Deep just has a little bit more, foundation underneath it to support basically a longer run. Now, if we look at LOFI just real quick, LOFI is much newer. Obviously, very nice bounce out of the lows. I'm not knocking it, and it's similar. It's a similar structure, but it's a little bit more unproven. It's a little bit more untested, and I think it's going to be the proxy for the Sui meme ecosystem. And if LOFI does well, then I think a lot of other Sui memes will. But if I was going to bet on any Sui memes, I would say LOFI is probably the one to go with. And if that sector does take off in the Sui ecosystem, I think that it's going to turn out to be a good bet. But like I said, there's still a few pieces of the puzzle that have to come into place for all of that to take off. So it remains to be seen.
Yep. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you for your questions. That is going to do it for us today on Trading the Markets. Just a reminder, if you want to talk about this with Kris on a daily basis, or many of our other members that are, charting and also taking their own ideas, join our Discord, join RV Crypto. We'll be happy to have you and happy to discuss all the different ideas and strategies that come into play in this market. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. Kris, thank you as always for your fantastic insights. We'll be back again next week, and we'll be back on Monday for our live TA session in Discord as well. So make sure you join us for that too. See you guys all next time.